Hello and welcome to the point of it all. I am Jamie and he is
Trevor.
Trevor. Trevor, we just had the opportunity to look at and review the Stadia Connect by Google or from Google. This rolled out their Stadia gaming service. What were your first impressions?
Overall, from what I saw in March, I was excited for it, but obviously we didn't have pricing, we didn't have much in the way of titles, much in terms of when it would be available, other than them saying 2019. Overall, I was pleasantly surprised. I liked it. It was it gave us a pricing which was something I was expecting, $9.99 a month. It seemed like it had some AAA titles on there. In addition to that, the controllers were about what I expect based on what a PS4 and Xbox controller would cost. The internet requirements weren't too over the top. I mean, in this day and age, if you're not somewhere between 10 megabit down and 25 megabit down, I can't imagine what you're doing in your household with technology anyway. So barring the thing we don't know about latency, I know they tell us it's going to be good, but let's go ahead and see. I'm pretty impressed with it so far.
Yeah,
based on what I've heard.
OnLive said it'd be great as well. And we know what that was. That was just a hot mess.
Well, if you think about OnLive, though, it was kind of before its time. It was the original. It's kind of like think about MoviePass. It's something that's going to live on, maybe not in its current form,
Sure.
but it gets others doing something like it. So OnLive came out, I think wrong on this, but about 10 years ago, and I kind of got into it around 2010, 11 maybe. And I overall liked it, but OnLive just kind of went away because it didn't have the funding and resources to keep up. A company like Google or Sony and Microsoft are going to have the resources and wallet to kind of keep up with it, whereas OnLive just didn't have that kind of money to do what they needed to do to innovate.
Now, I just read on The Verge. I just read on The Verge with their coverage of the announcement that this, in fact, will not be the Netflix of games. I guess Google announced that they will be expecting to charge a retail price for these games. So you're not going to be able to just rent a game like Game Pass from Microsoft. What do you think of that?
Well, what was the $9.99 a month then? I maybe missed that or was confused.
That's a very good question. That gets you. I don't know. I mean, if the Verge report is correct, then I don't know what the $10 a month is for. Maybe there will be some free games, but for the most part,
I have a hunch. My guess, if I had to guess, what I'll bet they do, they charge for the AAA titles like Division 2 and let's say they get GTA 6 or something big that comes out, But I'll bet then the older games that have been out for a couple of years, that's the ones that's part of the $9.99 a month. I'll bet anything.
Okay, that makes sense. Speaking of price, we know that there is a Founders Edition that they're going to roll out that launches in November along with the service. That is $129. And what do you get for that price, Trevor?
I believe it was one controller, which was a special blue controller. You get 3 months of service with it. I think in addition to that, you get 3 months of service for a buddy in addition to yourself, right?
Yes, that is correct. Yep.
And you also get a full version of Destiny 2. So with a pretty decent price. I've never played Destiny 2. I've always heard good stuff about it, but the one thing I'll say about the service I just thought about a little bit ago, I would probably be apprehensive to buy a title on this that was multiplayer because I don't think it'll have the community at start. But if it's a single player experience, I would consider it more. But if it's a multiplayer, I probably would still stick to Sony or Microsoft just because of the gaming community to play it online.
True.
So, but if it's a single player experience, I would absolutely consider it on the Stadia platform.
Just to clear up, the Destiny 2 bundle is all included DLC up to this point is included with it as well. They mentioned
not a bad deal.
Yeah, they mentioned some. Well, actually, real quick, back to the pricing. A controller is going to cost $70 for the Stadia branded controller, and it is Wi-Fi, so it's not like your PS4 or Xbox controller. Even though those will work, you would have to deal with Bluetooth latency if that's going to be an issue or not. We don't know. But.
And one thing to keep in mind also with that controller is going to come built in with Google Assistant.
Yeah.
Probably could even. My guess is you probably could even use it to control Philips Hue lights or even stuff like that if it's got a system.
Yeah.
So that'd be probably not the most ideal solution to control things, but it will work with that. Kind of like a controller.
If it's already in your hand, why not? We're talking about AAA games with AAA publishers. If you name the publisher, they pretty much announce support for the Stadia. Just to name a few: Bethesda, Bungie, Capcom, Codemasters, Electronic Arts, Madden, of course, Larian Studios, Baldur's Gate 3, Rockstar Games. So Sega, these aren't just like, these aren't, how you say, phone game the developers. These are the real deal. With that kind of power behind them, how can this service fail? I mean, can you think of any reason why it wouldn't work?
The only reason I can think is, let's go back to the Dreamcast era. Remember what happened when EA decided they weren't going to make anything for it?
Yeah, yeah.
You know, there was no Madden. The system eventually died. Now, maybe not specifically because of that. There was other reasons, but as soon as you have one big AAA company that decides, no thanks. Same with the Wii U. You know, EA said after making one version of Madden, we're not making any more. The sales were low. The system started to die. I mean, it needs AAA titles from all the you need to be able to get what you're going to get on Sony and Microsoft on Stadia. There can't be a difference in what you're going to buy.
I've got to say this, but you say that Madden wasn't the reason that console failed. I disagree. When EA Sports pulled their support or did not support for it, that pretty much tanked it.
No, Drew, I mean, I think it was a big reason. I mean,
I
think they had other reasons too. That
no other big names to join as well after that. I mean, that was pretty much a wrap.
Yeah,
in my opinion, at least.
I mean, I think the Dreamcast could have been successful if that would have been on there. I mean, Madden and the NBA Live at the time was good. It wasn't like it is now. But I think that you got to have manufacturers or software producers from every brand make stuff for Sony and Microsoft and throw in Stadia across the board. You got to have everything made for all the systems. That way you're not like, well, I've got to have my PlayStation for this and Xbox for this. And as soon as you start seeing fractured support, you're going to have a problem. Other thing, too, we didn't hear much about today is Google, with the announcement back in March, mentioned they were going to have a first-party in-house development team.
Yes.
But they didn't mention a whole lot about that today. So that tells me either the games aren't far enough along yet to really get into,
right,
or there's just not enough detail to really go into yet. So as we know with anything, first-party support, look at Sony, is one opinion in my opinion, why PlayStation separates themselves from Xbox. First-party support like The Last of Us, Uncharted, stuff like that is gone.
Yeah, those
first-party support. Look at Nintendo stuff, the Marios, the Super Mario Maker, the Pokemon, you name it. First-party support can really carry a system. So,
I'd say there's one big difference there, though. They're not making a console here. Like, there's really no console that they're going to have to support. If you have these big name developers behind you already, I mean, the first party thing isn't really going to be a big deal, I don't think. It'll just be gravy at that point. If you have the likes of 2K and Madden on your console or your service, bro.
I mean, I'm excited that I don't have to go out and buy a $500 console.
Absolutely.
Then turn around and buy $60 games and plug and play controller charger things. And you think of everything you have when you invest in a new system and a new platform. I mean, you have hundreds, if not up to close to $800 by the time you get 2-3 games and second controller.
Yeah,
this is going to be a much lower cost to get into it. So as long as you've got the bandwidth, and you can spend $60-$70 on a controller,
right,
you can get on and play this. I mean,
the original launch price for a new console anyway is just crazy, like $500 minimum for the first year of the console. You're going to pay that much for it. So you're not going to have that investment either. Do you think this is pretty much the beginning of the end of the console as we know it?
I think we're getting there. I think we're getting there. I think if you see, look what is happening with GameStop. Yesterday they announced they're doing cutbacks and layoffs, and you're going to see some version of GameStop probably go on in the used game market, maybe more of a retro game feel. But I don't think in the future you're going to have people running into a store to purchase games. So you're going to slowly start seeing systems kind of go away here, and as bandwidth becomes bigger and data caps hopefully start to go away, you're going to start to see people not need these $500 systems, another thing in their living room taking up space.
I'm going to miss the days of going into a store to buy a game, to be honest with you. I mean, I like
it's neat when you walk into a store and buy a game. I mean, everything nowadays is all about convenience. You sit home, you can get a movie by just pushing a button. You can play a game by pushing a button. It's a different way than it was 20 years ago. So
It definitely is a bit of nostalgia. I mean, I like going into stores and looking at the game covers and box art. Just I'm gonna miss that part of it.
Yeah.
I'm not the part that's frustrating for gamers though, and really consumers is that the game's still the same price. Like, what the heck? If I'm not paying for a physical, copy, a disc, and the plastic cover and all that stuff, why am I paying the same price for it? That
Sure.
part, I never understood that part. It's the money grab, in my opinion.
Yeah.
Um, any,
A good example of that, it's all about convenience. You're not leaving your house. You're not having to go wait in a line. I remember when I went and picked up GTA 5 6 years ago in September.
right.
I waited in a line probably for 2 hours to get that game. Now you can just push a button and you download it, you preload it, you play it at midnight that day. You don't have to go wait out, go at midnight. Look at these DoorDashes and Grubhub and Uber Eats. You pay for convenience of having it delivered to your home rather than going out and get it.
Right.
It's all about convenience.
Speaking of
pay for it.
Speaking of convenience, what do you think of the requirements to run these games?
I don't think the requirements are too bad. I think the requirements are very reasonable.
Let me run this down real quick. To get the best experience at the opposite levels, it's a 4K HDR, 60 frames per second at 5.1 stereo surround, 35 megabytes per second. What do you think? Is that too high, or is that right in the sweet spot?
No, I think that's right in the sweet spot. I mean, I don't think my internet where I live is anything special, and their middle connection's 50 megabit down. So, I think if you're working with something below 35, 25, or even 10, if you're working below that especially, I got a question. You really probably are not. This service isn't for you, probably. I mean,
yeah, that's definitely.
And I'm going to say you probably, if you're below 10, you might not even be much into gaming at all. I mean, or even watching digital movies at home, stuff like that.
Google is saying the worst you can do as far as quality of video and sound and whatnot is 720p at 60 frames per second stereo sound, and that's at 10 megabytes per second.
Yeah.
Passable. 720 is still passable for the most part, right?
I mean, like if you see 720 blown up on a 65-inch 4K TV, it may not look what you're used to seeing on a Xbox or PlayStation 4, but it'll look, I think, good enough that once you start playing, you're not like, oh, this looks horrible.
Yeah, as long as the frame rate's there, who's going to care?
You're getting 60 frames a second. 720p, I think, is passable, unless you're one of these video snobs that must see everything in 4K 60. I mean,
so are you all in on the console on the Founders Day version, or are you going to hold off?
Yeah, I already pre-ordered it along with 2 additional controllers. So,
oh wow,
I actually pre-ordered 2 Founders and 2 white controllers.
Whoa.
With the orange. I forget what they called the one. It's got the orange part on the thumb area. Maybe I'll sell one to somebody or give one to somebody. So,
right.
I'm all in on initially. I think it's got potential.
So could the big winners in this be internet service providers? Because if they cap your service, you might expect to pay a little bit more for your service if you're like heavy into gaming, and especially with this service. What do you think?
Yeah, I mean, it's probably definitely going to be internet providers that get it. I mean, luckily I live in an area where I don't have a data cap. And I know, like with AT&T, depending on the kind of service you've got, if you have DirecTV along with AT&T internet, they don't give you a data cap. So there's ways around it depending on what you do, but internet providers, if you charge data caps, are definitely going to be.
Oh yeah.
Take it out.
No, I have AT&T, and while there is a data cap, technically, they've never enforced it. I've never enforced it once. I had it for 10 years. So, I mean, knock on wood, we'll see. But we all know what drives the price is the usage, and if they see their network being used 10 times more than it was a year ago, you expect the prices to go up.
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I think as people cut the cord, that's going to be where they make money. It's not going to be from TV services.
Right.
It's going to be from internet services. So
do you have any closing thoughts on the Google Stadia? Do you have any closing thoughts? Do you have any closing thoughts on the Google Stadia?
Nothing really, other than I wish it wasn't 6 months away. But other than that, I'm excited for it. I'm ready to see it, and hopefully there's some type of maybe beta you can get into later this summer where they give early access to it if you pre-order the Founders Edition or something, just to see a game or two how it runs. So
right, what I would like to see from them in the end product is maybe not a network type, I'm sorry, Netflix type gaming service, but for my paid subscription, I'd like to be able to access at least one AAA title, I don't know, a quarter or a year or I don't know, a month or whatever.
Yeah.
Something like that.
That's cool.
Because if you're just paying $9.99 for last year's games, I mean, that's not really a good value. You already have it anyway, so, you know, I don't know.
Yeah, we'll see as months go, so.
Yeah, we'll see.
All right, well, that's cool.
This has been another episode of The Point of It All with Trevor and Jamie. I'm Jamie. He's Trevor. We'll see you guys soon. Drop a line in the comments section if you want. Let us know if you're going to buy the Founders Day edition or not, and some of the things that you guys might want to see in the finished product as well. Until then, Trevor, I'll see you.
Take care.